The world remembers Nikola Tesla as a genius, the man who imagined electricity moving through the air, the mind that saw the future long before others could. But near the end of his life, the story looked quieter. A small hotel room in New York, a desk, a window looking down at a city that had already moved on. Tesla was almost 80. By then, fame had faded. Most people no longer paid attention to the man who once lit up the imagination of the world. And when a life grows quiet like that, something strange happens. A man begins to see things differently. Not the inventions, not the victories, but the things that actually mattered. 5 of them became clear to Tesla, and most people only realize them far too late. There's a strange thing about youth. When a man is young, he believes the world runs on logic. If an idea is good enough, people will see it. If the work is brilliant, recognition will follow. Tesla believed that too. He didn't chase attention. He chased understanding. While other men built companies, Tesla built visions. Electric power moving across cities, energy flowing through the air, machines that could change the rhythm of the world. For a while, it seemed like the world agreed with him. Newspapers wrote his name. Crowds listened when he spoke. Investors leaned forward when he described the future. From the outside, it looked like the beginning of something enormous. But life has a way of testing the beliefs we carry when we are young, because the world does not run on logic alone. Sometimes it runs on timing, sometimes on money, sometimes on the quiet comfort of familiar ideas. And when your vision moves too far ahead of everyone else, something unexpected happens. People stop following, not because you're wrong, because they cannot see what you see. Tesla began to notice this slowly. An idea that made perfect sense in his mind could sound impossible to someone else. A future that looked obvious to him looked like fantasy to the people listening. That gap grows wider over time. At first, it feels like a misunderstanding. Later, it feels like distance. The room gets quieter. Fewer letters arrive. Fewer invitations appear. And a man who once stood at the center of attention begins spending more evenings alone with his thoughts. Tesla didn't complain about this, but he noticed it. Night after night, in his small New York hotel room, he continued working. Sketches on paper, calculations in notebooks, ideas moving faster than the world could catch up. Outside the window, the city never stopped moving. Cars passing, streetlights glowing, voices drifting through the night. Inside the room, there was mostly silence. And silence does something interesting to the mind. It clears away the noise, the arguments, the applause, the competition. What remains are simpler questions. What truly mattered? What was worth giving a lifetime to? What did the world misunderstand about success? By the time Tesla reached the last years of his life, those questions had become clearer, not all at once. Slowly, like lights appearing in the dark one by one. The first truth was the hardest to accept. The first truth came slowly, not in a lecture, not in a moment of triumph. It arrived quietly. After years of watching the world move past ideas he believed were obvious. When Tesla was young, he carried a simple belief. If something is true, people will eventually see it. Truth, he thought, has its own gravity. It pulls the world toward it. But life does not always work that way. Sometimes truth arrives too early. And when that happens, it does something strange to the man who sees it first. It separates him. At the beginning, the distance is small. A conversation feels slightly off. People nod politely, but their eyes drift away. The idea sounds too large, too unfamiliar. So they return to what they already understand. Most people do not reject new ideas out of hostility. They reject them because the mind prefers what feels safe, familiar patterns, proven paths, the comfort of things that already work. A man like Tesla lived outside those patterns. His mind moved differently. While others thought in steps, he thought in leaps. He could see entire systems in his head before a single machine existed. That kind of vision looks like magic from the outside, but from the inside it feels normal. And that is where the misunderstanding begins. Because the man who sees the future assumes others will see it soon as well. He waits. He explains. He draws diagrams on paper. Sometimes people listen. Sometimes they applaud. But many times they walk away confused. The distance grows slowly. A room that once felt warm begins to feel colder. The conversations shorten. Invitations become rare. Not because the ideas are wrong, but because they arrived before their time. Think about that for a moment. Being wrong is easy to recognize, but being early looks almost the same. To the world, both appear strange. Both feel uncomfortable. And the human instinct is to step away from discomfort. Tesla began to see this pattern repeat itself. Again and again. An idea appears. The room grows quiet. People hesitate. Years later, the same idea returns. Only now, someone else presents it. And suddenly, the world is ready. That experience changes the way a man understands success. Because success is not only about truth, it is also about timing. Timing of the world. Timing of culture. Timing of what people are prepared to believe. When those rhythms do not align, even a brilliant mind can end up walking alone. Tesla did not become bitter about this. But he did become observant. Late at night, the city lights flickering outside his window, he watched how the world moved, slowly, carefully. The future never arrives all at once. It arrives in pieces. And the man who sees it first often pays a quiet price. He carries the weight of a vision that others cannot yet share. That weight is called loneliness. Not the dramatic kind. Not the kind people talk about. A quieter kind. The kind that grows when your mind lives in a place where few others can follow. By the time Tesla reached the final years of his life, he understood something most people never think about. Being right is not the same as being understood. And that realization led him to the first lesson. By the time Tesla reached his later years, something inside him had grown quieter, not weaker, just clearer. There are moments in life when a man stops trying to convince the world. He begins trying to understand it instead. That change does not happen overnight. It comes slowly, after enough long nights, enough silence, enough ideas that arrived before their time. One evening, the room was especially quiet. The city outside still moved. Cars passing. Distant voices drifting through the street. Tesla sat at the small desk near the window. A notebook lay open. For a while, he did nothing. Then his fingers moved across the edge of the wooden table. Slowly, almost absent-mindedly. The same hands that once drew machines capable of lighting entire cities. Now they moved carefully. Time had done its quiet work. And perhaps that was when the first truth became simple. Not everything important in life is meant to be understood immediately. Most people believe the world rewards the strongest ideas, but the world often rewards the most familiar ones. An idea that feels comfortable travels easily. An idea that changes everything moves slowly, sometimes painfully slowly. That is the strange rhythm of progress. A new thought appears. People hesitate. Years pass. Then one day the same thought feels obvious. By then, the man who first carried it may already be gone. Tesla saw this pattern more than once. He no longer fought it. Instead, he began noticing something deeper. The world is not only a place of discovery, it is a place of timing. And timing rarely belongs to one person. It belongs to the age, the culture, the fears people are ready to release. When a man understands this, something inside him softens. He stops measuring life by applause. He starts measuring it by meaning. Tesla never lived like an ordinary man. He knew that. But with age, he began to see the cost of a life built entirely around one idea. Obsession gives clarity. It also takes things away. While other men built families, Tesla built visions. While others learned the quiet language of relationships, he learned the language of energy and machines. Neither path is wrong, but every path leaves something behind. A lifetime is always an exchange. You gain one world. You lose another. Most people realize this too late. They look back and wonder where certain years disappeared. Tesla rarely spoke about regret, but he understood trade. Every invention required sacrifice. Every breakthrough demanded attention that could not be given elsewhere. Late at night, when the city finally settled into silence, he sometimes looked around the small room. A desk, a chair, a window, and the quiet company of his own thoughts. For many men, that kind of solitude would feel unbearable. For Tesla, it had become familiar. Still, familiarity does not erase truth. And the truth was simple. A man can spend his entire life chasing greatness, only to realize later that greatness was never the thing he truly needed. Sometimes the mind wants conquest, but the heart wants something smaller, something quieter, understanding, peace. The ability to sit in a silent room without feeling that something is missing. That realization came slowly, but when it finally arrived, it changed the way Tesla looked at success. Because success, he discovered, is not always measured by what the world applauds. Sometimes it is measured by the silence a man can live with, And that silence led him to another truth. The strange thing is, most people will never build machines like Tesla did, but many will recognize the feeling he lived with. A man in his 50s sits in the living room late at night. The house is quiet. The television is on, but the sound is low. He's not really watching. His mind is somewhere else. Work. Decisions. Years that passed faster than expected. He wonders something he has never said out loud. Did I choose the right path? Not because life failed, but because life moved quickly. Another person sits in a kitchen after everyone has gone to bed. A cup of tea grows cold in her hands. She listens to the quiet house. Children groan. Rooms that once felt loud now feel too large. She doesn't call it loneliness, but the silence feels different than it used to. These moments happen everywhere. In small houses, in city apartments, in quiet suburbs where the streetlights turn on before anyone notices. People reach a certain age and begin asking quieter questions. Not about success, about meaning, not about winning, about whether the years were spent on the right things. Tesla knew that feeling in his own way. He gave most of his life to ideas, to visions only he could see clearly. Many people do something similar. They give themselves to work, to responsibility, to building something that will outlast them. And one day they pause, maybe in the middle of an ordinary evening, maybe while washing dishes, maybe while staring through a window at nothing in particular, and a thought appears. Life is not only about what we build, it is also about what we experience while building it. The conversations we had, the people we kept close, the quiet moments we allowed ourselves to feel. Some people discover this early. Many discover it later. But the realization arrives for almost everyone eventually. Success is loud. Life is quiet. And sometimes the quiet parts are the ones that matter most. Tesla understood this near the end. Not as a regret, more like a recognition. A man can spend decades trying to change the world and still forget to notice the small pieces of life happening around him. The laughter in a room, the warmth of someone sitting nearby, the strange comfort of simply being present in an ordinary moment. Those things rarely appear in history books, but they appear in every life. And when people reach a certain age, they begin to see them differently, not as distractions, as the things that were quietly important all along. And that realization leads to one final thought.